Hello and welcome back to another video on the F1 Journal. And after the madness of the last couple of weeks in the F1 driver market, I'm doing this video earlier than I expected to do it, but it is my 2020 driver lineup predictions before all the seats are filled, and I don't really have anything to predict. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. And we're going to start off with reigning, defending, undisputed world champions Mercedes. I think Mercedes will obviously want to keep hold of Lewis Hamilton, and why would Lewis Hamilton leave there? He's had ridiculous success there, and it only looks set to continue. It's his own team, and yeah, there's no reason for him to want to leave. And I can see him staying there until he's on 8 world titles, record number of wins, and maybe he'd have a shot at Ferrari then. But is it as sure for his teammate? No, it isn't, but I still think Valtteri Bottas will remain at Mercedes. I think Mercedes will keep Valtteri on for one more year, and then at the end of 2021, young drivers Esteban Ocon and George Russell will both be out of contract, so Mercedes can have a decision to make over which one they go for the long term, and I just think Valtteri Bottas will just be the useful number 2 until that moment arrives. Moving on to Ferrari now, of course we already know their lineup. Sebastian Vettel will leave the team and Carlos Sainz will replace him, leaving a lineup of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. I'm expecting Leclerc to lead the team now for the long term, and having just signed a 5-year deal, I expect he'll be number 1 driver and will be the driver pushing the Mercedes and possibly the Red Bull drivers the most. However, don't rule out Carlos Sainz, as last year he proved to be a very quick driver for McLaren, leading them to 6th in the championship. And whilst I don't think he'll be as quick as Leclerc, he'll certainly be able to match him at certain tracks. So it won't be as easy as Leclerc as many are expecting. Now moving on to Red Bull. Max Verstappen is already contracted there to be number 1 driver for the long term, so he will stay at the team next year unless a miracle happens, and he'll continue to lead them into the new rules to try and get his title at Red Bull, so that won't change. But as for his partner, I think Alex Albon will just about keep the drive. He'll be number 2 to Verstappen, no doubt, and Red Bull won't mind that. It's just that will he be Pierre Gasly off the pace, or will he be Daniel Ricciardo off the pace? I think Red Bull need a reliable backup option, otherwise realistically they'll never win the title. So it's crucial for Albon to put in some decent performances, and Red Bull just don't really have many options, so I think Albon may just be able to keep his drive. Now moving on to McLaren, who have of course already announced their driver lineup for the 2021 season. Daniel Ricciardo replacing Carlos Sainz, and Lando Norris remaining at the team to partner him. I think Ricciardo is a great get for the team, a genuine top-class driver and proven race winner, and will no doubt help McLaren get back to the top of the grid. And Norris as well already knows the team, impressed, and definitely one for the future, so I think McLaren have a really nice balanced driver lineup next year. Now moving on to Renault. Could we see it? Fernando Alonso back in F1 and back at Renault for a 3rd stint. You know what, I think it's going to happen. Renault, like McLaren, need a star driver, and he would be exactly that, even if it was just for 1 or 2 years. Sure, it would increase the business side, which has been struggling. And yeah, he could help Renault become a top team again. And even if Renault don't become a top team, he'll drag something out of that car that many others can't. And he may cause arguments in the team, but this would be a great pickup for the Enstone team. But if Alonso does come in, I do worry slightly for Esteban Ocon at Renault next year. We've already seen what can happen to a driver's career when you're up against Alonso, such as Stoffel Vandoorne, who's now in Formula E, when many thought he'd be a championship winner in F1. No disrespect to Formula E, but F1 is the highest series at the moment, especially when he still may have a chance of getting a 2022 Mercedes drive, losing track of all of the years in lockdown. Yeah, I do worry for him, but hopefully I'm praying he has enough to hold his own against Alonso should he get the drive. Now moving on to Red Bull's junior team, Toro Rosso. No, it's not. It's Alpha Tauri. Jesus Christ. Still haven't got used to it. I think Pierre Gasly will stay at the team. Red Bull still have faith in him, in my opinion, despite a disastrous run at Red Bull. He's still young, up and coming, and he did really well since joining the team. Give it a few years and he could be ready for a promotion back to Red Bull. And this man on screen, some of you may not be familiar with, his name is Juri Vips, and I think he may be in the second Alpha Tauri seat, nearly said it again. I just think that Kvyat won't stay because it's clear he won't go back to Red Bull, and I can see Red Bull putting out another Verstappen, a really young driver such as Juri Vips, who's shown promise and could get a job done in that car, and just build him up and up and up until he's ready for that Red Bull seat. I just think Red Bull need to do that because they need to get Alpha Tauri back on track and producing young drivers again. And I think Vips is really talented and he can do it. And I'm fully expecting Kvyat to go to another midfield team that you'll find out in a minute, but I just can't see him staying in the Red Bull family. Next, Racing Point as they are now, but Aston Martin as they will be next year. Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll will be at that team for a long time to come. Perez has signed a multi-year contract, has been there for years, and the team love him. So he loves the team, so why would he leave? Great option, so he wouldn't leave. And Lance Stroll is the effing son of the bloke who owns the team, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So yeah, these two will keep together. Everything will be jolly. And I can't see any change from there for a long time. Next, Alfa Romeo or Sauber, whatever we're calling it today. I think this will finally be the year where Mick Schumacher gets called up to F1. He had a mediocre season in F2 last year, but I'm expecting him to push on and finish near enough at the top of the championship this year, which would see him make the move to Alfa Romeo, where he can learn for a while, and he may become the next Bruno Senna, or he may become a championship winner like Damon Hill. I don't want to be mean, but I would suggest the Bruno Senna route is more likely. I think this would mainly be for the sponsorship. Imagine all of the eyes that would get on Alfa Romeo, which is why I think they go for a driver like Schumacher over Robert Schwartzman, which is a shame, but it is how F1 is. And I think Giovinazzi will get one more year at the team before maybe making a switch over to Robert Schwartzman or something like that. I think Giovinazzi can lead the team for a year because I can't see Kimi staying. I just think he's too old and he kind of went off it a bit towards the end of last year, and I'm expecting that to continue. So I think this will probably be his last year. I think Giovinazzi will lead the team for a year, then Schumacher will be experienced enough and someone like Schwartzman will come in and Alfa Romeo will become like a Ferrari junior team or whatever. And I think that's the way that will probably go. Moving on now to Haas. I think Kevin Magnussen will retain his drive. He's the perfect driver for Haas at the moment. Pretty experienced and quick whilst not being too old. He's a great driver to have for a midfield team, and I can see him staying there for a long time and maybe Haas building the team around him for the long-term future. And this may be a surprise to many of you, but I can see Danny Kvyat getting the other seat at Haas. I don't think Grosjean will stay, but I think Kvyat, as I've already said, will leave the Red Bull family at the end of the season and will look for an independent team long term, and I think that'll be Haas. Grosjean won't stay, in my opinion. He's stayed a year too long now, and I think this year will be his last. I think it'll be a long battle between Kvyat and Hulkenberg for this seat, but I think Kvyat might just get it. The younger option, race to the front. I just think Kvyat is a slightly better option for Haas. And last but not least, but kind of least, Williams. So I'm expecting the same driver lineup at Williams next year. George Russell, there's just not really many options for him to move up considerably. I think he may well get the Mercedes drive in 2022, but Mercedes would like to put him in the Racing Point, but there's just not a seat available there. Can't really see him going to Renault, but I expect he'll get the Mercedes drive in 2022. If not, he'll leave the team and he'll go somewhere like Renault, and just split off from Mercedes. But I think he'll have to live with a Williams seat again. And as for Nicholas Latifi, he'll stay at the team. I think he'll probably be quite long term, unlike the likes of Robert Kubica and what's his name? I've forgotten his name. Sergei Sorokin. It brings the money, and he can't forget he did finish second in the F2 Championship, although I would argue a pretty weak F2 Championship last year, but still finished second, so he definitely does have the quality, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do against Russell next year. And those are my predictions. Unfortunately, it does seem the likes of Sebastian Vettel and Nico Hulkenberg miss out on a seat, but then again, we do get the introduction of the likes of Yuri Vips into the championship, and of course the return of Fernando Alonso. So kind of good stuff, kind of bad stuff, but overall I'd be pretty happy with that grid. Seems pretty entertaining. Let me know what you think of that potential grid and what your predicted grid is in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching. Like, share, subscribe to my other channels on the screen. Link to Twitter in the description below for F1 news. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.